Hello, Amazing Amphros here with part 12 of my The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past Minimalist Run. In this segment, I am going to be clearing the second major Dark World dungeon, the Swamp Palace. The Swamp Palace is the first water temple in the Zelda series, but never fear, it is much more simple than all the other water temples. And in fact, it is simple enough that I believe it is the prime candidate to be this early of a dungeon in our Dark World dungeon order. Not only is navigating the dungeon actually simple, unlike what a water temple would lead you to believe, but the dungeon treasure here is the Hookshot, which is the best dungeon treasure that we're allowed to get in Minimalist. If we could get all the dungeon treasures, I'd argue the blue mail would be even better, because taking half damage for everything is awesome. But seeing as we don't get that, the Hookshot is the next best thing. More on the Hookshot later. I'll actually give you a heads up, a lot more on the Hookshot later. But the other reason that you have to keep in mind is your boss order. The boss of the Swamp Palace is Arrghus, who is a slow-moving, simple, straightforward boss fight that anyone who's beaten the game once has basically no excuse to lose to. Even at this early phase in the game, when we still only have 7 heart containers, he takes 4 hits to kill you, and pretty much every hit he lands can be more credited to your own carelessness or negligence as opposed to his clever attack pattern. And as per navigating the dungeon, again, this is a water level, but it's not like the others in the series. You're just moving from right to left. All the water level changing puzzles are incredibly simple and straightforward. And for that matter, the water itself is not really an obstacle in the sense that the enemies don't attack you while you're swimming. Short of that one annoying room near the end of the dungeon that anyone who's played this game before will quickly remember. So, just think of this almost less as the first water temple and more as the first Zelda dungeon with water in it. However, the enemies in this dungeon are still real enemies. So, before I trash too much on this dungeon, let me tell you the general ideas you need to have for how you're going to fight here. Most of the enemy types here are very simple enemies that can be hit with sword shots. So as long as you keep full health, you never have to directly engage. However, if you're worried about directly engaging with less than full health, you can use your bow and arrow, which is an equally effective substitute, and it hits them all. The only enemy type that cannot be hit by arrows or sword shots are those water anti-fairies you saw in the first couple rooms, and they'll be coming up again a couple rooms from now. There's 2 basic ways to deal with them short of just staying out of their way. One is, right as they're forming, or at any time, but right as they're forming is a strategically significant time to do so, strike them directly with the sword or hammer. This will cause them to dissipate, and though you can't truly kill them, they'll keep coming back. Getting rid of them for a while certainly helps. The other option is just run to truly dry ground. Unlike most enemies, they simply can't follow you there. They'll bounce off the edge harmlessly like they were hitting a wall. So those enemies should not concern you. You also have that fireball shooter there that reacts to sword swings. But once you realize how it works and that it only fires in a cardinal direction, there's not a whole lot of reason to get hit, especially because the main room that has a lot of enemies in one of those is full of pots, and it does not shoot fireballs at you for launching pots at enemies. But that about wraps up everything you need to know to get through this dungeon, short of keeping crystal switches in the right order, pushing statues, all that fun stuff, which, if your memory's a little fuzzy on all those details, this video shows you the right way to do all that. For now, let me tell you about the wonderful item that big key I just got is going to be helping you out with. And that is the Hookshot. The Hookshot is the greatest dungeon treasure you could ask for. It does 3 extremely powerful things for Link. The first thing it does for Link is that it lets him pull himself to various objects. He can pull himself to pots, statues, chests, or torches, which sounds somewhat limited until you actually look at the level design in this game, and it is a struggle to find a room that does not have at least one of those things. Most rooms have a lot of those things. So you can speed your way along, hookshotting to each random object as you go, or not, it's really up to you. But I like having more options as opposed to less options. The second thing about the hookshot is that it's not just a hookshot with that first function, but it's also the boomerang. Many smaller enemy types, more than the boomerang actually, are just outright killed by the hookshot, and many larger enemy types are stunned by it. We never got the boomerang, so this is the first time in the game we have access to a weapon like this. And just like the boomerang, anyone hit, we can use the hookshot with total impunity. We will never run out of hookshot uses like we'll run out of arrows. The hookshot is also a very fast weapon for what it is. If we shoot it really close to enemies, it's actually faster than swinging our sword even. That's very efficient. The third use is a use unique to A Link to the Past with the hookshot, and that's the invincibility. For the entire duration of Link using the hookshot, he is absolutely fully invincible. You can use this to dodge just about anything, and if you combine it with grappling to distant objects, you can take yourself from dangerous positions to safe positions completely safely. Though even if you don't pull yourself to anything, you can dodge stuff. So we got the Cane of Birna in a way as well, an item that, of course, we'll never be getting. Now I'm getting near the end of this dungeon, and I wouldn't be doing a good job if I didn't tell you the trick to get through this oh-so-fun current room. Go fast, swim in big circles, that's all you need to know. You might get hit sometimes anyway, happens to the best of us. For Arrghus here, like I said before, he's a slow-moving, simple boss. You have to mess up 4 times to die. I wouldn't even worry about the couple mess-ups you do have, because, again, you're not going to mess up 4 times unless you just don't know the boss. All you got to do is stay outside of the range of his spinning circle attack and pull away 1 node at a time, 2 slashes, it's dead. When you pull them from the bottom, it seems more likely they'll hurt you, but I wouldn't even worry about it. It's not important. You're not going to die. Once you kill every one of his spore node things that he likes to spin in circles, he'll move into a second phase where he jumps up onto the ceiling, lands vaguely near where you're at, and tries to crush you. Just charge a spin attack, hit him right after he comes down. It's very simple. If you let him go like I do once here, he'll ping around the room, bouncing off the walls at this very particular angle. He tends to get stuck between the 2 corners, so if you go to the opposite 2 corners he's not bouncing between, you have this big safe zone. And you just have to hit him once to get him back where he's in that same old trap of getting hit with spin attacks. He should go down easily like he went down for me. You'll get your 8th heart, and you'll get a crystal which will give you more of this game's story. Here we're being told about how Ganon discovered it wasn't the Dark World yet, he actually discovered the Golden Land. He got the Triforce, it can grant wishes, and for that matter, the hero has some magical powers, which magic can be useful to some people, but I'm just excited over this hookshot, which is as powerful as magic, but doesn't cost a thing. And unfortunately for me, and my need to fill this video with commentary, this is actually not the last thing I'm doing in this segment. I'm also going to be heading out and getting myself the Flute and the Ice Rod. These are both items that I'm going to need in order to complete the game. The Flute I need in order to get into the 6th major Dark World dungeon, and the Ice Rod I need in order to beat the boss of the 7th major Dark World dungeon, Trinex. These items aren't really very useful outside of those functions, so I'm just getting them now where it's the fastest time to get them. I will be using the Flute as a speedier way to get the Ice Rod and to speed up my trip to the 5th dungeon a bit, but it's not really that big of a deal. And in general, I find it's just a simpler way to navigate the light world, to just save at strategic times and choose where you're going to start. Between Link's house, Sanctuary, and the mountain cave, you're pretty much always going to be as close or closer to anywhere you need to go as the Flute can take you. The Ice Rod, on the other hand, is a bit more interesting of an item. Personally, I really don't like using the Ice Rod, because the blast moves really slowly and it does eat a nice chunk of magic on any non-productive use. But the cool thing about the Ice Rod, no pun intended, is that anytime you freeze an enemy, you can then smash them with the magic hammer and they're guaranteed to drop a magic refill. So if you run around just freeze and hammering all enemies, then you can just keep your magic full and you have an effective long-range attack. Again, I don't favor this strategy over an item like that great Hookshot we just got, because the Ice Rod blasts travel a lot slower than a Hookshot chain, and whereas you mess up with the Hookshot, it costs you nothing. If you mess up with the Ice Rod, you just lose magic. And the whole freeze and hammer strategy thing also explains why I didn't get the Ice Rod earlier. Even though it could have damaged Landmalists quite a bit, it's just not worth it compared to go all your way out of the way here to get this item, when it's not even a complete item before you get the magic hammer. And it wouldn't have really helped in the last dungeon anyway, because everything was dying in one hit. Not a whole lot of use in freeze and hammering enemies that die in one hit, is there? But either way, you have it now. If it's your cup of tea, use it. If not, do what I do and let it rot in the inventory. Amazing Ampharos signing out. May the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.